Hello, I'm Mari Perron, and I'm here with my cat Simeon. And in fact, I thought that I would make this video about Simeon and the love and um, intimacy that we can have with our pets and how they accompany us. Simeon's been with me almost since the beginning of A Course of Love. So, The Course of Love started in December of 1998. And in April of 1998, I was paused. And if you've seen any of my talks, you've probably heard about the pause, but it was sort of a heart-wrenching time because I didn't know why I had been paused. And I was really in despair about it. But in that pause, I went to visit my friends, Mary and Julie, at the university, and there was this coffee shop that we used to frequent. And I went in there and found out that it was for sale. And this idea started to come into my mind about what a great thing it might be for my daughters, because they were in and out a lot, and I really wanted quiet space in which to receive A Course of Love. So at that time, this idea took root, and then, of course, picked up again, and but I did end up opening this coffee shop, and it was in October of that year. And we had really, really wonderful customers. We were in a place kind of a combination of artists and politicians. Senator Paul Wellstone had a office right across the street. And anyway, this guy from next door came in with a box of kittens. And my two daughters and I and a guy who worked for us were there, and he got rid of 3. And I told my daughters if they wanted these cats, they were going to have to be their cats, and they were going to have to take care of them. And you probably know how well that usually turns out. So I ended up with 2 cats that were sort of my daughters. And this is a picture of Simeon and his brother, and the 3rd cat that went to our employee, Jameson. So what really bonded Simeon and I was when I got sick. So I ended up working at the coffee shop a lot more than I thought. And I also found the reception of A Course of Love to be very exhausting. And I was working on the treatises then. And so I'm sure that those kittens got brought in probably right around the end of the treatise on the art of thought. And I got really sick after that. And I only remember it because that was when Simeon and I bonded. So there was this break of more than 2 months between the art of thought and the treatise on the treatise on unity. And sorry, these dates probably don't mean anything to you, but I'm trying to kind of position Simeon in time, because Simeon has one day he didn't eat anything, and he's been having accidents, and he's almost 21, born on Easter, so he'll be 21 on Easter. And I thought I would just tell his story a little bit, just in case he's not with me too much longer. But in this instance, I mean, this was really the longest between any of the works of A Course of Love, was that 2-month stretch. And I was probably working at the shop quite a bit, and maybe because I hadn't been terribly in the world for a while, I picked something up. Anyway, I can still remember how sick I was. And Simeon was like constantly with me. He was just the sweetest, dearest thing. I was in bed, and he was always curled up by my side. And every once in a while, his brother, whose name was Max, would come too. And Max lived a good life, but he's been dead several years now, and Simmy's been alone. And I wrote about the 2 cats in a little book called The Given Self that's being republished. And so I thought that this is what the old one looked like. And the new one is going to have a somewhat similar cover, but it will be different. And I will let you guys know when it comes out. But before I read you this little section, this is what Simeon and Max look like a little bit later in their lives. Aren't they darling? So I wrote, I have 2 cats, and this one night when I was falling to sleep, I felt one of them come to snuggle in at my shoulder. I was thinking how it was kind of neat that without opening my eyes or touching fur, I could tell which cat it was. Then I turned over. It wasn't either cat, but the pillow, maybe shoved a little closer to my neck by my husband's repositioning. The thought that popped into my head when I realized I had not identified the right cat, that it wasn't either of them, was, this is what this whole thing has been like. I like telling that story because this thought was so spontaneous. Well, later I found this passage by Krishnamurti that I thought felt very similar to the way I felt that night and to many of my experiences of A Course of Love, which were almost like being caught in that state between waking and sleep. So Krishnamurti says, something strange is happening to the physical organism. One can't exactly put one's finger on it, but there's an odd insistency, drive. It's in no way self-created, bred out of the imagination. It is palpable when one's quiet, alone, under a tree or in a room. It is there most urgently as one's about to go off to sleep. It's there as this is being written. The pressure and the strain with its familiar ache. There's great and unutterable beauty in all this. I couldn't have written anything better, had that sort of imagination of that sort of way of talking about what this is beyond typing. And I really do liken it to a mystical experience. It's almost like halfway between. I've had a mystical experience. I wrote Creation of the New from that. And A Course of Love, really it was kind of like in between a mystical experience and scribing. And I thought it was a nice little touch to add to Simeon's story. And I will leave you with that and hope to share Simeon with you many more times. Thank you. Bye.